For business owners, like anything else, you have to work on the business, not just in the business.
Yeah.
And that means you have to take off your worker bee hat and put on your owner hat, your shareholder hat, whether you own 100% of the company or something less than 100%. And you have to spend time working on the business itself.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind Their Success podcast. I'm Peyton Squires, the host, and today we have on Eric Brotman. Eric is a certified financial planner, CEO of BFG Financial Advisors, an author and sought-after speaker, and host of the podcast Don't Retire, Graduate. With over 25 years in the industry, Eric has helped countless entrepreneurs and families achieve financial freedom, build legacies, and transform their mindset around wealth. If you want some real-world lessons on success leadership, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff shared here. Eric, good morning. Welcome on Behind Their Success.
Peyton, glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, Eric. So give us, high level, who's Eric, where did he come from, and what are you doing today?
Well, my story starts like most financial advisors' stories. I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do. I had done some internships. I was thinking law. I became an English major. English and psychology I studied, and that led me to a job in the legal department for a brokerage firm, where I fell in love with the finance business and out of love with the legal business without having to do 3 years of law school and go into debt. So that wound up being a huge win. And after a year, literally a year in corporate America, I said, holy cow, this is not for me. I am not a good employee. I am, in fact, totally unmanageable, and I'm going to do this my way, and it's either going to work or not. It's sink or swim time. So I started a financial practice back in late 1994, and in 99 had a chance to come together and start a firm with a more senior gentleman who is a dear friend and mentor. And 4 years later, in 2003, I launched what is now BFG Financial Advisors. It was Brotman Financial Group. We took my name off the door, and everyone had a lot of glee involved in that. But it was the right thing because the business isn't me. It's a lot more than me. So we did that. But it's now been 22 years, and we have a national presence. I mean, we're in 37 states and have 10 financial advisors, and we're managing close to $1 billion. So it's been an unbelievable journey from extraordinarily humble beginnings as a startup.
Yeah. Me and you are in very, very similar spaces, right? So I'm a CPA and a CFP. So I'm in the same area as you, but the interesting thing is the comment you made there of like, I'm a terrible employee. I don't know how many times I've said that exact line on the show by myself. Beginning, I had some corporate experience coming out of college and grad school and whatnot. And yeah, I hated it. Was not for me.
I didn't like being told that's the way we do it, or that's the way it's always been done, or sort of stay in your lane. I get some of those things, but I was barely making a living. I had seniority in my department of 5 after 8 months. The turnover was so rampant because people were so unhappy. And it was an awful job. However, it led me down a really important path that I didn't know I had. So I'm grateful, frankly, for the abuse that I took for that year, but I never want to do it again, and I never want to treat people that way. So we have a culture here that's extraordinarily different. Decisions by committee. We take a lot of feedback from a lot of people. We let folks be involved in lots of different aspects of the company. We have a lot of employee leadership and now a lot of employee ownership. So it's been a journey to find people who maybe have the entrepreneurial itch and the desire to grow and be part of something important and bigger than themselves, but maybe without having to do it by themselves and figure out how to bootstrap and borrow money and all the things that it takes sometimes to get started. So it's been a nice mix, I think. Yeah.
So, you started in 94, kind of on your own, and you've kind of grown in it today. Can you tell me like what's your focus today? I assume it's leadership, leading the team, but can you kind of just describe that to us and maybe like your philosophy a little bit on that?
Well, absolutely. And actually my philosophy is to surround myself with amazing people who are smarter than I am and who love doing things that I don't love doing, and then give them the tools they need and get the heck out of their way, which I've done. I also am stepping down as CEO. I'm passing the torch January 1st to 26. And will be a growth officer for the firm. I'm no longer client facing. Now my job is to do M&A and to add senior level advisors to the firm and to find organizations who are in need of succession plans where we can buy out either an advisor's clientele or even their staff and their team. So we're looking into growth that's inorganic because the organic growth is already happening sort of like at full clip. So it's the first time I've had a new job in almost 3 decades. So I'm a little freaked out by it. I'm not going to lie. It's a little strange, and it's a little strange to sort of hand the reins to someone, even though she's someone I trust implicitly and who I think is going to do a better job than I did. Certainly the tools that it took to get from 0 to say $1 billion are different than the tools it will take to get from 1 to 3 to 5. 100%. It's a different business. It's a different thing. And so I think it needs a different person at the helm. And so, I have no desire to retire, not my podcast and book notwithstanding, to tell people never to retire because it's bad for them, but I have no desire to not be working.
Bad for your health.
It is. It's awful. I want nothing to do with it. However, I do want to graduate to sort of my 2.0 and reinvent myself a little bit. The timing's perfect. I'm 3 years from empty nesting, trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. Feel like I have a lot of energy in the tank and can do a lot of good for a lot of folks. And now I'm trying to do more one-to-many rather than one-to-one, and hiring great people who can do one-to-one at a level that, frankly, it transcends anything I'm able to do now.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And you're building, you're building that team around you. You're building leverage around you. And like you kind of made the comment earlier, you're filling in all the gaps. And where you're at in your season of life, I'm probably, you're probably 20-ish, maybe 25 years older than me, but like that's the path I'm going on, right? Same exact path to get to that point to where, I'm not even the CEO or really any part of operations, but really just, I'm like the lead evangelist, the marketing guy, and I'm just, my head is constantly in the clouds and growth, right? And I have an amazing team that I'm building up and leading and growing. And someday I'm going to take that same step you are doing right now. And while you're probably 20-ish years ahead of me, I understand the switching of the role and putting somebody in as a CEO. And that's my ultimate goal as well, right? Is to get to where I'm the leader, the kind of lead evangelist, like my head's always up in the growth, right? And get that team behind me that is operating and running the business, because I know that's where my genius is and where I'm like best served at. And having this rest of the team is certainly going to fill in the holes that I'm not good at or I don't like to do at all, right?
It's funny, the education system in this country for many years, and I am older than you, but I'm not willing to tell you how much. The education system in this country for many, many years taught us to work on our weaknesses.
Yeah.
So all through the 80s and 90s and 70s, 80s and 90s, it was, oh, you're terrific at math, but you're not great at grammar. Let's do more writing. And today, I think we've shifted in education to playing to our strengths and saying, you're really good at math. Let's let that become your thing. And it could be anything. It could be music. It could be art. It could be psychology, but playing to our strengths. And I think if we do that at work and we let people do the things that not only that they're good at and suited for, you talked about your genius, everyone's got their genius. And so if we can play to that, but also play to something that I think is even more important, which is the joy factor. Things people like to do. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you like doing it. Yeah. So if you can find find people who are good at something and love doing it, particularly if it's something you're either not good at or don't love doing.
Yeah.
And you've got a really, really smooth machine there because you're playing to people's strengths instead of saying, look, everybody here has to keep working on this weakness until we get it right. Maybe they're not going to get it right, or maybe they'll get it right, but they'll resent the experience. We all hated that one class in school, whatever it was. Some people more than one, but I'm not pointing fingers, but we all hated that one class at school that we weren't good at. And instead of being forced to do that all day, let's do the things that we're great at, not to ignore a well-rounded, human, but I think some of us were born to do certain things or just love doing certain things. I think if we learned anything from Michael Jordan trying to play baseball, it's that no matter how great an athlete you are, you might have one lane that's better than the other.
I like that Michael Jordan analogy you said there. And I think is, my perception of that is being really, really top notch at, say, playing basketball, right? Like that takes almost everything. Like,
Yeah.
it's very, I would almost say, arrogant to think that I can be a top performer in this area and then pick up another area on the side and think that I can compete at the highest levels, compete with the people that, playing baseball is their entire life, right?
Correct.
And there's nobody playing in Major League Baseball that just kind of wants to play baseball, right? There's nobody playing in the NBA that just kind of want to play in the NBA, right? Like it takes, unreal amounts of commitment and work that, like, if you just want to dabble into something, don't have a high expectations of where you're going to actually compete.
Yeah, hobbies are great. But if you want to be a superstar in your career, whatever field you're in, I think you do need to specialize on some level. You do need to do something that gets you excited to get out of bed every morning. Whether you're 25 or 65 at the time doesn't matter. You should do something that gets you excited to get out of bed every morning that you're good at, where you can make a difference and feel good about. So at the end of your day, you're not drained. Your tank is full and you're ready for what's next, instead of saying, oh, I can't wait till Friday. If you're one of those people who gets the Sunday dread, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah. No, 100%. How do you define success for yourself? And maybe how has that changed, on your journey, from the 90s to where it is today?
It's changed dramatically, because originally success was not failing. Success was the absence of failure when I first started. The biggest fear, the biggest thing that drove me was that this isn't going to work. And not that I was thinking that it wouldn't work. I believed it would work. I had a plan that I thought was solid. However, in the back of your head, it's, can I really do this? And I think as a startup, you spend the first 3 to 5 years trying to figure out, is this going to work, or am I going to be looking for a job? And so it does. So success meant being sustainable and being viable initially. Then you get to a level that is really all about meteoric growth. And I think the measure of success then is extremely quantitative. Can I grow to this level, this number of assets under management, this number of clients, this amount of revenue, whatever you define it to be? There's a very quantitative phase. Now it's, okay, I'm surviving, but can I thrive? And can I thrive with a money target, for example? I'm now at the stage of my career where success has a heck of a lot more to do with, are other people around me thriving and succeeding? Yeah. Am I finding joy in my work? It's much more qualitative. I'm at a point where, I'm blessed to be working because I love it, not because I have to, because I went 9 years at one point without a week off, because I was in the office 7 days a week, because I did the things that people don't want to do and that people don't see. Yeah. They say it takes
but everybody wants
it takes 30 years.
Part, don't they?
Yeah. It takes 30 years to be an overnight success, right? It
sure does.
The people working here, some of them weren't born when I was in the office with the IT team at 3 a.m. because stuff wasn't going to work at 7. They didn't see it. And I'm not begrudging them that, but at the end of the day, the lumps you take early on get easily forgotten by those, or disregarded by those who don't see it. They just see you at a certain level. And it took time to get there. Jeff Bezos was working, I believe, in his mother's garage or whatever. And I think he's doing okay now. So my measure of success now, Peyton, is much more qualitative.
Sure.
It's, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I impacting lives, both the lives of the people who work with me and the lives of the people we represent? And if I can say yes to those two things, the revenue will come. At this point, it's about the joy. And I think there's a quadrant there. I refer to it as my joy revenue matrix, where you want to do the things that are high joy that also make you more successful financially, whatever job you're in. And you want to try and delegate the things that maybe make you successful but not happy. And you want to spend time doing the things that make you happy, even if they don't move the needle, because that's part of who you are. And then the rest of it, you want to eliminate, automate, delegate, something, anything, to not spend your time doing that as much as you can.
Yeah. I like the explanation you have there of kind of the journey. And I've, doing 100 plus of these episodes, it's a similar journey that, a lot of people describe, right? It's, the first 5 years, I say all the time on here, the first 5 years are going to suck.
Yeah.
They're going to suck. And
that's
just like the entry fee. Okay. So like, you're going to have to pay that. And then it becomes, okay, yeah, man, maybe I have something here. Right. Like, and now maybe if I can raise my game and raise my mindset and set these big goals, okay, maybe I can go after all these big things. And I would say the phase I'm in to a degree, right? And then, once you have some level of success, monetarily, like you're in great shape, you've kind of done all the right things for you. And then the monetary goals even become less motivating, right? At that point.
Definitely.
And then it's okay. How can we have impact on others and my team and giving my team opportunities to grow and my clients and spreading just good stuff, right? It becomes, like you said, much more about that after you've accomplished all your, whatever monetary goals you have for yourself.
Watching other people succeed is now a definite measure of success. I can enjoy their success, both employees and clients. I can enjoy their success vicariously. Mm-hmm. And feel like I've played some small role. I will say that when you talk about the first 5 years, that they're going to suck. They do suck in a lot of ways. I remember when we set up payroll and we had one full-time and one part-time person and me, and they had direct deposit and I didn't because half the times I couldn't cash my own check.
Yeah.
I had next to no salary and those checks would sit in the drawer hoping that they could go to the bank someday.
I could use them.
Right now they're not. And you really go 6 months to a year with no income. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you've borrowed money to do it. I mean, I borrowed from everywhere and banks wouldn't talk to me. The ironic thing is a bank loves to lend money to people who don't need it, but they don't want to lend money to people who do need it. And that's the great conundrum. And it's entirely true. And when you're a startup, they're like, see us in 2 years. And the same banks that said, thanks, but no thanks, we won't help you, are now literally in line outside the front door.
Knocking down their door trying to give you money. Yeah.
We've always wanted to work with you. Get out. No, you didn't. And the first one that did is largely still with us now because they took a flyer on us early enough on that they were like, okay, well, let's do this. And we've worked with lots of different banks and financial institutions now. But when you start, I borrowed from my life insurance. I borrowed from my credit cards. I borrowed from my home. I borrowed from my mom. There's nothing worse than owing your mom money. And I paid her first. I didn't care what the interest rates were. I had to have a good line of credit with the bank of mom because I wanted Thanksgiving to continue and I'm not a good cook. So that was the first one I paid back. If the banks don't get their money, so be it. But mom's getting paid back because that was nice. So it is a journey. I for the right person, for the right people, it's one of the most rewarding things you can do. For the wrong person, it's really torture. I mean, you really have to think about, for those folks who are in your audience who are thinking about taking the entrepreneurial leap, the beauty is that millennials, who I love to beat on because millennials, you might be a millennial. They're the easiest
technically I am one, but I'm like the oldest one.
Well, all right.
So I consider myself more Gen X.
No, you are definitely a millennial. No one considers themselves Gen X. If you're Gen X. If you're Gen X, you played with toys that could kill you.
I've ran around pretty unwatched most of my
Yes, there were no helmets for anything. But I like to beat on millennials because they're easy targets. Yep. And I'm putting you in that group for this moment. But what millennials figured out that I think is really smart is they built the concept of a side hustle.
Yeah.
And so a lot of folks who have that entrepreneurial itch now have the ability to start something, sort of, whether it's their nights and weekends or it's their free, they can begin something and get that ball rolling without sort of giving up the day job.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was not a possibility. You had to quit, and because nothing was
you didn't have the
digital,
technology
nothing was online.
To do that. Yeah.
If you're out pressing flesh, you have to do it when that's happening. You have to go to that lunch meeting, or you have to go to that Chamber of Commerce meeting, or whatever it is, and you can't do that while you're punching the clock someplace. Well, now there's so many different ways to get plugged in, and so for folks who want to do the entrepreneurial jump, you maybe don't have to do it in quite we were trapeze artists without a net. There's a net now, at least for some. If you are gainfully employed and it's not absolute torture, and you can continue to do that while you're building whatever business you want to be in, I think it's a little easier. I'm not going to say it's simple. It's not. It's still hard work. But you don't have to starve necessarily for your first 6 months or a year as you get something off the ground.
Yeah. Talking about the listeners that, maybe they listen to this type of content all the time, right? And they have this itch in the background and it's just kind of always gnawing at them, or they're always considering it. And, speaking to them, it's like, it may not be, it's like as much as, I don't know, my show, or I try to glorify entrepreneurship to some degree because I do love it, but it's not for everybody. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to accept that, You need to look at, okay, I want to build this business, 5 years of suck or whatever that's going to take. You look at the cost. And if you decide it's not for you, that's fine. But this in between of maybe I want to do it, maybe I don't want to do it. You're just torturing yourself. You need to accept the path and understand what work is required. Go in it with your eyes wide open, or just accept you're never going to have it. And that's fine too. Just the in between is terrible.
There are lots of ways to have professional success. And for some people, that means working for themselves. And some people sort of can build their own practice or their own status within an organization where they're not also the ones who are sweeping up at night,
And we need those people.
Well, yes, entirely. I will say that one of the things that I look at when we start talking to firms about their succession plans, and we start talking to financial advisors, most of them don't have any plan at all. They're either going to die at their desk or walk away or take less than the business is worth. And that's because a lot of their G2s, their second generation advisors, are not going to have the appetite for the risk or the ability to finance a purchase. So, Peyton, I started selling shares of this company when I was 38. People thought I was absolutely nuts. Like the farmer selling the watermelon before it's ripe on the vine and getting less because it's fewer pounds. Yeah. But what I wound up was knowing that watermelon was being sold, even if it wasn't fully grown yet, and that was okay. And so I started selling shares at 38. I've continued to do this gradually. It is still part of my financial journey and my financial plan. It's allowed for tax planning. It's allowed for me to time the way that other people join this group. We now have 8 shareholders. That seemed impossible. Firms look at that and go, how did you do it? And I said, well, first of all, you just commit to doing it. And second of all, I've been doing it for 15 years. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like I became employee owned. Let's do an ESOP. It was, how do we figure out who are those folks? And equity is never given. It's always sold. So if you want to own shares of a company like this, typically you're not earning them, you're buying them, and you're buying them and then helping them be more successful. And if you're willing to take that risk, there's a lot less risk in buying 2% or 4% or 8% of a company than there is saying, I'm going to own 100% and let's just do it. And so there's lots of ways to be entrepreneurial, even if you don't want the risk of saying, holy cow, the 3 people I just hired, their families are fully reliant on me to do what I do. There's some real pressure and some real risk involved, financial risk, but also reputational risk and the risk that you're going to let people down. And if there's one thing I know about successful business people is that they never want to let somebody down. And sometimes it happens anyway, but you do your best not to. I had employees willing to take the leap. In fact, when I left my former firm in 2003 to start, I had one person who I was allowed to take with me by contract. And I offered her the gig and I said, will you come? And she's no longer working here. We're dear friends to this day, but we called it our Jerry Maguire moment, like grab the fish and we will have dental, right? She literally went from a stable organization to a startup overnight.
Yeah. Well, she took a chance on you.
She did. And I took a chance on her and we had a great run for a long time and she's very successful and happy and I'm doing fine. And we're dear friends because I think there's phases and chapters of life. No. Deciding to do something is not a lifetime sentence. It's a big commitment, but anything you build, you can sell, you can unwind, you can transfer, there's lots of ways. Once you own it, it's an asset. It's on your balance sheet. So, when you're an employee, it's all income statement. And I'm talking to a CPA, so I'm in deep trouble if I go too deep here. But, it's all about what comes in and what goes out. Mm-hmm. When you own the company, it's not just what goes in and what comes in and what goes out, but it's also what's it worth? What's it worth? The difference between renting an apartment and buying a home is that there can be equity in a home. It doesn't mean it's always a good thing to buy a home. Not everyone should buy a home, just like not everyone should start a company. I mean, there are reasons to do it and reasons not to.
100%. Don't have anything to add to that. That was great. Even when you got into financial statements.
I am not a CPA. I wouldn't do my own tax return if I had to. In fact, my
I actually
CPA
filed mine like 3 days ago. Finally.
No, I would sooner do my own root canal. Just for the record, and that wouldn't go well either.
Are you looking for a new tax experience?
Looking for an advisor that actually brings you high-level ideas and proactively plans so you aren't overpaying your taxes? Or how about one that even just responds and communicates in a timely fashion? If any of that resonates with you, you probably just have a tax preparer and not a tax planner. And it is through the tax planning process where all the value is found. And when tax planning is done right, it has a positive return on investment. I'm Peyton Squires. I'm a CPA and owner of Squires Tax Planning. We work alongside entrepreneurs and high-income earners, helping them pay the least amount of income taxes, both legally and ethically. We have saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars through specific strategies, and we guarantee we can find multiple tax strategies that your current tax preparer hasn't told you about. If that interests you, head over to squirestaxplanning.com. There you can take our free assessment to see how likely it is that you are overpaying on your income taxes. From there, you can also book a free tax discovery call with our team to see what it would look like to have us working for you. So, obviously, in the financial wealth building space and whatnot, I work with almost exclusively entrepreneurs and my practices and whatnot. But what's one principle of like wealth building that's kind of like specific maybe to entrepreneurs or business owners that you wished they understood better?
Well, it's funny because I was formulating an answer and then you said for business owners. And so the answer does change a little bit because your personal finances and your business finances, while they certainly impact each other, they are different. I would say for business owners, like anything else, you have to work on the business, not just in the business.
Yeah.
And that means you have to take off your worker bee hat and put on your owner hat, your shareholder hat, whether you own 100% of the company or something less than 100%. And you have to spend time working on the business itself. Are we profitable? Are we successful? What direction do we need to go in? What's our branding and marketing need to look like? What's our 5-year pro forma look like? And that is not the same as what do I do? Well, I'm a dentist and I see patients all day. Well, great, but you also own a practice, which means you have to know that yes, we have the right equipment and the right leases and the right financials and the right banking relationship, and we've got the right employment contracts and all the things. You have to work on the business, not just in it. So for business owners, a business is an asset that you must manage. People think it's a set it and forget it, or it's I've got it started and now I can just file the LLC document in my drawer and not look at it for 12 years. I would say that's not the way to do this. I would say you should absolutely, at least annually, look at all of the things that any company would look at for directors, for officers, for shareholders. Look at the legal documents, look at the vendor agreements, look at the HR, the employee manuals, all the things that happen as you start to grow. At least once a year, have a true inventory and get off site, because you can't do it when you're in the trenches. Get off site and spend meaningful time, whether it's just you and a consultant or coach, or whether it's you and your executive team, if you've grown there, or whether it's you and 2 or 3 key people who may not be executives by definition, but they're leaders in the organization. But you have to work on it, not just in it. That to me is step one. If you don't do that, you're not managing it. It's like having a beautiful lawn you never cut. I mean, at some point it won't be beautiful if you don't trim it, right?
Yeah. And I think that is such a hard thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to do. And the reason is honestly the stereotypical personality of an entrepreneur, right? Like they're generally these high driving, high confident people that make decisions and move things along. And that's why they started this business. But generally that type of personality comes along with some weaker detail, right?
Hire a coach, hire a consultant, hire a dedicated management individual who can do that, who's great at that, who loves to do the blocking and tackling and doesn't have to call the play. Yeah. Again, you're playing to your strengths. You're right. Most entrepreneurs would rather be making the widgets all day than figuring out how the widget factory is going to run. No. But you have to, or somebody has to. And if you're not that person, if you have a big enough team that you can delegate that to somebody you trust, great. But if you don't, you can outsource that. And that's where someone like yourself, who has much more experience in working with these kinds of folks, can say, hey, let's talk about the ways that this organization can grow, that this business can flourish such that it takes care of you, your family, your loved ones, your philanthropy, and all those things for decades, not just so you get through quarter 3.
Yeah. I mean, I see it every day. I see it every day in my practice. I see it, of new clients I'm talking to and whatnot. Whereas we get on a call, me and my team, as we're going through the process of, onboarding a new client and whatever, and we start asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Those questions will have people like deer in headlights. They're like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about any of this stuff before.
Right.
And it's just an intentionality focus around it. Right. And it's leaning into those things that you are afraid of or know you're not good at, and finding help and support in those areas, because most entrepreneurs will go years and years and they'll just completely ignore it because they know they're not good at it. They know it's not good. So they're like, hey, let's just hide this over here in the corner. And it's not going to get better.
Well,
and
families do the same thing.
It's
families
nothing.
do the same thing in personal finance. Yeah,
100%. That pile of mail you don't want to look at because there's something in there.
You haven't looked at your will in 15 years. It's probably not good.
Yeah,
whatever. It doesn't have to be. Or if you stopped opening your 401k statement because you don't like seeing the balance go up and down, well, you still need to be aware or have somebody aware.
Yeah.
And the business owner is very, very similar to the family. The financial planning and business planning are inextricably linked.
Yeah.
And for a business owner, they have to manage it as a business, but they also have to manage it from a financial context because it is probably their biggest asset. If you don't own a business, your house is likely your biggest asset. Maybe your retirement plan, but usually your house. If you own a business and it's having any modicum of success, then that is your largest asset, and it needs to be treated with the respect it deserves because it is the most important asset in your world, and you have to protect it. The right liability, the right liability coverage, the right employee situation, the right all of the things, the accounting, the legal, the financial, it has to be tied up, and you don't have to do it by yourself. No one goes into business because they want to do all of that. But you've got to have a team, just like a family should have a team of advisors, financial, tax, and legal. So should a business.
100%. Yeah. So turning back to you again, Eric. So you have your podcast, you've written books.
Yeah.
Tell me, what kind of impact has that had on, your business and personal growth? And maybe tell me a little bit of the why behind those.
Well, the why had a lot to do with wanting to reach as many people as possible and help them, even if they weren't good prospective clients for a firm like ours.
Yeah.
Not everyone needs a financial advisor, but everyone needs some financial advice. And so while there are plenty of families or individuals who would benefit from working with a firm like ours, not all of them should. Either it's more expensive than something they ought to do, which I'm extremely sensitive to. I mean, it's like the Hippocratic Oath for a physician is first do no harm. There comes a point where it makes sense. There might be a point in between where it makes more sense to have a financial coach or a financial consultant, or even to use AI or some kind of resource to help stay on track. There are things that you can do at least early on that are much less expensive. But I wanted to create a resource that the masses could get their hands on that would be a path to financial independence. So the book has a workbook with it, and the workbook is literally building your own financial plan. So if you were to go through the exercises, and I don't believe in homework, I like extra credit. So every chapter has its extra credit assignment. If you do the extra credit assignments, you'll have a financial plan. And you can then use that foundationally. And then ultimately, as you get, either more sophisticated in your planning or more successful financially, then you can start to outsource some of those roles. But when you first get started, you kind of have to do it by yourself. And your HR department cannot help you. They can't. They're not legally allowed to help you. All they can say is, these are the 26 forms I need back by Friday. They can't tell you how to do it. And so having the right resources matters. So I wanted to be able to we have solutions for the $25 million crowd and the business owners and executives who are very wealthy people. We have resources for the folks who are 1 to 10 million and who want some private wealth and want some hand holding, some concierge level assistance, but don't necessarily need a family office. We have a financial planning program that's designed for folks with less than $1 million. That is a financial planning for all, where it can be subscription based or it can be very affordable. But then we also realized there were people who are either struggling with debt or were paycheck to paycheck and were not in a position to do this. And I wanted to put something out. So you asked how it impacted the business. It made me as a professional feel like I now could reach everyone. Mm-hmm. There was now a resource from just getting started. And we put a lot of free resources out. We have free ebooks and free online personal financial literacy courses and things that are literally free to anybody who wants them, because we want to be able to help a wide swath of humanity, whether you're a Rockefeller or whether you're a startup. And so that's why I did it. I would say that the branding of Don't Retire, Graduate. I've been doing the show for 6 years. It's my third book. It's my last book, unless there's a romance novel in me, because that's a lot of work. So there's we've reached a lot of people, and I know we've put out a lot of content that people can get that's free. And that makes me feel good. Does the podcast grow the business from a dollars and cents standpoint? Not really, because it's reaching people who in most cases are looking for that free advice or that kick in the pants to start getting something going. That's not how people make financial decisions. People make financial decisions when they get to a certain stage where they know they need help, and they ask a friend, or they ask their CPA, or they ask their lawyer, or they ask their next door neighbor, who do you use for this? And that's how those relationships start. It's extremely rare that someone would listen to a podcast and go, I'm hiring those guys. Yeah. Not that it doesn't happen. I didn't do the podcast and the book to create new business for the firm. We're doing great. I did it to create access to financial literacy for as many people as possible, and for people to realize that they can do some of this themselves, and that when they're ready to outsource it, whether it's to us or somebody else, get the help you need and know how to do it. There's a chapter dedicated to how to interview a financial advisor to figure out whether he or she's right for you, because we're all different. And somebody who chooses you will be different than somebody who chooses us. And somebody who chooses one of us will be different than somebody who chooses the person down the street or in the next town or in the next state. And so I just think there's someone for everyone. There is such a shortage of financial advisors in the U.S. and a really big shortage of good ones, that there's so much abundance in this world. So many people need our help. And the more people we can reach, the better off everyone's going to be. And that, if that sounds utilitarian and naive, maybe it is, but I feel like we can change lives without having them write us a check.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that, Eric. Yeah. I love that explanation. And many of the same reasons I do what I do as well, on the podcasting. It's not, in fact, it costs me money, right? Like I have to produce these shows. I have to do all these things and whatnot. And then it's, yes, there's some aspect of marketing funnel or even lead nurturing or whatever. Yes. And all that stuff's true, but it really is. One, I really like to do it. I enjoy meeting, people like you and having these conversations, and I learn a ton, and it's great networking. I get great resources for my clients, but it's really doing it with no expectation. And that's kind of how I jumped in. It was just, hey, I need to do this. I know, smart people I know in business, they're building an audience. They're giving away all kinds of great content or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to copy that and do that and see where it goes. Right.
And be authentic.
Yeah.
You be you. Don't try and be somebody else, because you're the only you, right? So if your messaging is authentic and it's empathetic and it's heartfelt and it's you, people are going to gravitate to you or not based on that chemistry.
They like it or not.
And that's okay. And there's somebody for everyone. But the fact that you have been able to build an audience, and yes, it is expensive and time consuming. If you consider the hourly rate that you have when you actually are working with clients, and you tack that on to the cost of the production or the other things, it is expensive, but worth it. And I think some of that is brand awareness, some of it's credibility, some of it's great that when someone goes to your website or ours, they can check out some of our content and see if our values are aligned, if our messaging is aligned. But beyond that, it really is not about creating new clients so much as making a difference for those folks who maybe aren't ready yet. But when they are ready, you want them to think of you. You want to be top of mind. We're not a household name, and you're not a household name, and we're not on billboards, and we're not advertising during the Super Bowl. And so the big companies will always own us in that area. Where they can't own us is in the one-on-one communication and the accessibility of the decision makers. If you're working with a financial advisor and you can't call the CEO or the chief investment officer or any of those people, then you're with a pretty big company and all you have is their representative. But if you're working with someone who's an entrepreneur, who, particularly if you're working with business owners, he gets you because you've done the same thing. There's an immediate connection because you've done the exact same thing. You've worn that hat. You've felt that fear. You've taken that risk, and you've enjoyed some success, and you can help others with that experience. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's great. Last question here for you, Eric.
All
so
right,
me and you are both champions of financial literacy, right?
Yes, sir.
If you could just give out a couple basic principles, and I know that this may sound for kindergartners, but the stuff I see every day and deal with, it's what are the few basic principles that people need to understand and kind of implement in their lives to have some financial success?
I'm going to give you 3. I could give you 20, as you well know, but I'm going to give you 3 that I think are fundamentally important. And if people can do these 3 things, then they're going to be in good shape. The first one is to take inventory. Know where you are. You can't possibly chart a path someplace if you don't know where you are. That's navigation 101. It's like the mall kiosk. You're the sticker. Where am I going? And be real honest with yourself, with your significant other, with your spouse or partner, with your advisors, if there is one. It's like going to a doctor and not telling them what hurts, but asking for a prescription. Be really honest. So that inventory is where you start. Be really clear. This is where I am, good or bad. And some of it will be great and some of it will be lousy, and that's life, but know where you are. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to pay yourself first. Every single month, instead of bringing in whatever revenue or income you have, paying the bills and hoping something's left over, make sure you automate the savings or investment or debt reduction from the first dollar. Because if you can live on 80% or 85% or 90% or some number that's less than 100% of what you make, then you have a shot at building wealth. If you're spending more than you make and you're not the federal government and don't have a printing press, you have no hope. So that second is to pay yourself first. And third is don't wait. It doesn't matter what shape you're in financially. It will not be better tomorrow than it is today unless you take proactive steps. So I would say those are the 3 things. Take inventory and be honest with yourself. Make yourself the highest priority bill every month, and don't wait. Nothing good is going to happen by procrastination. Inertia is a powerful force, but your head in the sand is not a good plan.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Eric, I want to appreciate you for coming on the show. This has been a great conversation, and listeners, we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.